I've sort of been to like Thailand. When you're sort of in that space, the word God doesn't really come up.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this. I've seen God in a lot of my life experiences. Last year, I had around 2,000 followers. I vlogged every single day. I realized that I was feeling resistance to it and I was getting tired. And I remember I was in a hostel in Hanoi, so sick. I asked for a sign that day. I met this man who offered me flu medicine, and turns out he was a life coach. He said, "Why aren't you coaching right now? You could be a coach." And I know that that was God sent him to me. And now it's not a surprise to me when this happens. I just believe God exists. God is within all of us.
How did you go about cracking Instagram?
My framework and my methodology has always just been be me. Authenticity will always be one of my niches because I think to be your authentic self means allowing yourself to just play. In my coaching show, I'm going to help people like find their purpose. You can always ground yourself, and you need a really strong why, more than money, more than fame, more than what other people will think of you, and just truly like what you think of yourself. Hello,
Hey, Ali, where about are you at the moment?
I'm in Thailand right now.
Oh, have you been living there like full time, part time, or are you just traveling? What brought you to Thailand?
So I came to Asia for 3 months last year and loved it. And I knew that I always wanted to, well, I at that point knew that I wanted to leave Toronto. So then I went home for 4 months, moved out of my condo, moved back in with my parents with the goal of like booking a one-way flight and traveling and building my business as a digital nomad. So I loved Thailand last year and Vietnam. So now it's 2025 and I'm ramping up my coaching business. I decided this month I'm staying in Thailand, and I booked myself like villas, bungalows to focus on this. And then for 3 months I'm gonna live in Vietnam as well to do the same.
Wow. Do you know whereabouts in Vietnam you're gonna try?
Da Nang.
Ah, nice, nice.
Yeah, I loved it there.
So you sort of changed careers. You went from finance, then you went into sort of recruiting. What was that last thing that made you like quit and become a digital nomad? What was that last catalyst?
I just burnt out. I realized that the catalyst for me to switch from accounting to recruiting was a breakup, and my whole life was changing because we were living together, and so he had to move out. And already that was just, I think, a point in my life that the future that I envisioned for myself, it all just shattered in a day when we broke up. Like the life that I was planning for, to get married, like I was saving money to buy property with him, like the typical path that most people follow, I guess, like the American dream too. And we had both met at work, like we were both accountants. And that was a big reason I kind of stayed in that career too. It was very stable and just comfortable, but it wasn't something I was passionate about. At that point, I knew I'm a very people-oriented person. I'm very extroverted, and I wanted to work in a job that actually energized me. Specifically, talent, like internal talent, was what I was interested in. And I tried moving onto that team within my company because I really liked the people on that team, and I was friends with a lot of them too. But the recession had started, and I knew it that layoffs were coming. And so they couldn't give me a spot on that team. And I just decided, like, okay, I love this company, but I will prioritize my happiness and my career. So I started applying for jobs elsewhere and ended up landing at a recruiting agency. It was not what I wanted because sales was something that was daunting to me. The idea of the pressure of needing to sell to make commission. But I did it as a challenge to test it out for myself and see just how money motivated I am. And also to learn the skill because I was scared to do cold calling and I didn't want that fear to stop me. And so in recruiting, I ended up doing that for 6 months, and it ended up becoming something that just wasn't what was best for me. I put so much pressure on myself to be the best recruiter there is because after pursuing a career in accounting that wasn't suited for me for so long, I was like, this is made for me. This is perfect. How can I fail at this? But I was getting to the point where I was crying because I don't know if you are familiar with the nature of the recruiting industry, but obviously okay, you don't. So with sales, it's high highs, low lows. You have to be very emotionally strong. And I think you do have to be very money motivated because you need to have something driving you to keep going, even when things are tough. And it showed me, though, that there's a lot of things about it that I loved, like connecting with people, but a lot of what I was selling sometimes didn't really align with who I am. And I didn't feel like I could be completely my authentic self in that. So it was very eye-opening. I appreciate that experience so much. It got me to where I am today too. And I learned a lot of skills, and my team was amazing. And my manager was the one that actually helped me realize I was burnt out and like, I just wanted a break. So that's how I started traveling more. And that was a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. And since then, I've just been set on traveling the world and building my new life abroad.
That's pretty epic, Ali. Talking about sales, like right now my company, we get like sort of inbound leads from my YouTube, people who want to sort of learn about e-commerce, drop shipping, Facebook ads. And like recently I've been just like on a losing streak. I have not closed someone in quite some time. I don't know if the leads are colder. I don't know if they're unqualified, if they're just lower quality. I don't know what's happening, but I'm just not closing anybody. What is sales like for your coaching program? I know you get leads from Instagram, they go to your bio, they apply. Yeah, what's that like, especially with your experience?
That's a good question. It's only recently that I'm starting to really focus on bringing in leads and selling and converting. Because my vision was always when I launch my business, when I feel ready. Because after I told you I was burnt out, I didn't want to make money actually, and I just didn't want to work. But in 2025, the flow of coming into this year, I have been laying the foundation. I got my life coaching certification last summer, and I worked with a client towards the end of last year. And so now I'm ready to, like, I built this program. I invested in a business coach that was also helping me with finding my niche and my messaging. And so now I'm just testing out what I have in mind and also refining it as I go. And if another coach or if my coach that I worked with already, like if something of theirs speaks to me, I'll invest in that more too. I'm just so set on prioritizing this and building my business, but I am like hitting not a block but per se, but internally, I think this is very common amongst everybody, like limiting beliefs. And it's always everything external to us, anyways, is something internal. Like for me, because I had negative experiences with sales in the past, I think in my mind, I think selling sometimes is bad. And so I've been really working on that inside of like, no, what I have to offer is genuinely life changing. And I'm helping the transformation that I'm selling. It worked for me. It's going to work for people. And I know I'm pouring so much into it. And so it's not a matter of like, how can I convince people to buy this? I think it's just going to be a matter of like me being consistent and persistent and just reaching my people. And that's the approach that I'm going at it with the sales now. So it can be super genuine because I just can't do anything that's not really aligned with me. And so I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, to overcome the hurdles, I think I'm just reflecting on how do I really feel inside and how can I just be patient and trust God more and trust that it will always happen the way it's meant to. And I think that's why I'm so much happier now, at least with building my own business. I'm not rushed or forced to do things in a way that I don't want to do versus when you're working for a company and you're selling, like recruiting, it was selling people. And the clients we worked with, they had jobs that I don't necessarily, like I wouldn't even work those jobs. So I found it very hard to sell it and push it. And then also the quotas that we had, it was very high pressure. And I think that's why now I'm just being so intentional, so careful with how I approach my sales. And I know that, like, for you, of course, we can't predict, like, it's hard to close. And maybe for me, out the gate, I thought there would be a ton of people coming in, but, it's proving to be, it's going to take time. And I'm willing to take however long it takes to get there.
I remember when I had my first 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, I was posting videos daily. We're getting consistent views. I had like a small community and I put together this sort of webinar and I was going to push it to like a course sale. And I put in so much effort and I was expecting like money to just pour out. People were going to join. They're going to pay 9.97 for this course. It was back in 2018, 2019. And I launched a video. I was just waiting on my phone, refreshing, seeing people hit the landing page. And I think I was expecting like 10, 20, 30 sort of sales, but I think I only got like three that day. Then it slowly dripped in over the next few months. But I was definitely very underwhelmed. Like I was expecting a floodgate of customers because this is my first ever course, my first ever offer. And I put in a lot of effort. How was your experience launching the application, the form, the link in bio? What was your experience like, Ali?
Well, thanks for sharing that because it's actually what I'm experiencing right now, right? Like I just launched a week ago. But I'm well aware that I studied business as well. And a lot of what influences the way that I'm marketing and selling is what works for me. Because how did I like pull out my wallet and pay for my coach? I'm a very methodical, practical person. It takes me time to make my decisions. Like, yes, I'm spontaneous and I do a lot of things, but I think at the end of the day, I'm very strategic about the moves that I make in my business and in my life. And so that's why I said I'm taking my time, because I want to nurture the right clients. And like, I don't want to just work with someone who's convinced like in a second anyway, because maybe they're not going to commit to their own transformation in my program. And so high caliber clients is what I'm looking for anyway. And I think the statistic is like, in marketing, you need 7 touch points or something on average to get people. And so that's what I mean. I launched it. And so now I'm showing up more on my stories, and I have content lined up that I'm shifting my messaging, and how I'm starting to throw in more like I am coaching. I'm ready to be more of that authority in this space. But it took me, like I said, a lot of internal work first to get here where I am confident in what I have to offer. And that's what working with my coach about a month ago really helped me do, to craft this offer and really pack it with value. And also just this last year and a half of building my account and showing up online and the traveling, all the people I meet, it was all to get me to be this ready. And I guess, like you said, with your launch, the expectation, and then you feeling a little defeated because it didn't go how you planned, but they did end up trickling in months later. Like all the work you still put in still paid off. I've learned in my life that expectations are the only problem that we give to ourselves. Like, I'm very careful now with managing my expectations. In theory, yes, I could have gotten a bunch of people in the door in the beginning, but also I know it's possible that that doesn't happen. And so I've gotten a few, but I'm also just so confident that as I keep sharing, as I keep promoting, as I keep fine tuning what I'm doing and learning new things and adjusting, that I can achieve my goals and I can sell and reach the target that I'm hoping to.
That's so cool, Ali. You mentioned sort of, having faith in God that things would work out. I've sort of been to like Thailand, I've been to Phuket, I've, traveled in hostels, and when you're sort of in that space, the word God doesn't really come up. Like it's not a common thing. And I guess you being in that space, being the whole digital nomad, island hopping, do you meet? Are you religious, or was that just like something you said?
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this. I've had an interesting relationship with religion and God. I grew up Christian. My parents were Christian when I was born. So I was forced to go to church, and it was like a Protestant Christian church, but it was also Chinese Christian. So the conservative influence and values were very evident, and I didn't like that. I've always kind of been rebellious in nature, and I am unapologetically myself. I guess as a kid, I was too scared. So it just inside me, I felt that dissonance of I don't agree with this external life of mine, but I felt trapped. So when I went to university, I stopped going to church when I moved out of my parents' home. And I kind of went the other way. I finally was like, I can be free to be who I want. Like nothing about what I was taught in church really stuck with me. But because I was raised to believe in God, I always had this feeling that I would find my way back to God. And I don't know if other people relate to this, but growing up in church, I went to some Christian camps as well. And there was always people who would share their testimonies of how they found God. And I was in probably grade 6 or 7 and just sitting there listening and thinking, I wish I had a story that powerful. But I truly never felt like I ever experienced God. And it was only this last year that I genuinely realized, like, I've seen God in a lot of my life experiences. And I say I'm spiritual. I kind of am healing my relationship with organized religion because my ex-boyfriend was also Orthodox Jewish, and that's a whole religion that is kind of, it was interesting to learn about his background, and it got me thinking about what role does religion play in my life as well. And so now I think the rules of religion I don't completely align with, and I think that your relationship with God is unique to you, and however that works for you is what's best. I think this can evolve as I'm growing. Like I said, I'm pretty new to starting to use the word God. And I like that you said when you go to hostels and traveling, it's rarely brought up. But what's interesting is that the more that I have now been honest and open about my beliefs and what I care about, I'm finding that I'm aligning more with people that are like-minded and similar. And that's just how it works with authenticity. The more you show up as your true self, you actually attract those people in, and you no longer even entertain conversations with people that you can just sense it too. And so this time, like traveling, because it's been over 5 months now, compared to last year when I did 3 months, I have noticed like I just, the people that are around me are more aligned with me, and just the conversations I'm having are deeper and so much more special. Like they're just more real. And I think that's just a byproduct of being more sure of myself and what I believe in.
You talked about seeing God. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I know what's funny about me talking about this now is if you told me a year ago, 2 years ago, that this is what I would be saying publicly on my page to strangers on a podcast, I wouldn't believe you. Because, like I said, growing up, I heard all these stories of God, and I was like, yeah, okay, sure, God exists. And my parents always forcing me to pray and believe in God. But I think what was the biggest awakening that I had was, especially in the corporate world, I got to the point where I worked so hard to do everything on my own that I thought it was all me. Like all my hard work paid off. I needed to work hard. I needed to do so much. I needed to control my life. Otherwise, it would go to shit. And like, it wasn't just corporate. Like I also had a whole weight loss journey in 2018. And I worked so hard, like going to the gym every morning, like tracking my calories, my macros, like controlling my life. And it improved drastically. I saw the change around me. People were like, suddenly people were interested in me, and like opportunities came to me easier, and people were nicer to me. Like, again, people who've been through a weight loss journey also will see like how much more mental it is than physical too. You start to expand your mind because suddenly you're living in a way that you didn't know was possible for you. Because and it also made me see more of just how the world is. And it's kind of sad, like just because you look better, suddenly you're getting treated better, but it's just the nature of things too. So there was a multitude of experiences that I had, because in the corporate world too, working in finance and accounting, I did payroll. I saw what people were being paid, and even recruiting, right? That transparency of getting to the point too where it's all made up. Like people just get treated certain ways because of the way they look sometimes and external factors. But I reached a breaking point, I guess, with it was in Asia last year. At that point, had been posting for 9 months straight. When I left for Asia at the end of January last year, I had around 2,000 followers. And the whole first month when I was in Vietnam, I vlogged every single day. So I was vlogging my day and editing a video and posting it, and posting my daily photo dumps. So I was doing a lot of work. In the first couple of weeks, it was super exciting and it was flowing. It was fun. And I didn't have to force myself to do it. But by the end of the month, I realized that I was feeling resistance to it and I was getting tired. But I didn't want to give up on myself. I didn't want to be a quitter or a failure, because I was so sure that my Instagram was going to be my ticket to freedom. Like, this is how I'm going to build a following, build a community, have a platform where I can share my wisdom, my messages, and share my journey and help inspire people, and ultimately build a business off of. And so all of that whole narrative was coming into my head. But I started having this feeling that like I knew I needed to just take a break. And it ended up like manifesting in me getting really sick. And I physically didn't have any energy in me to post. And I fell behind in my vlogs, and that was me like needing to stop. And I remember I was in a hostel in Hanoi, so sick. I slept like the entire day. I only needed to get up to get food and medicine. And I was feeling really down, like I was giving up. And it was really difficult to sit with those emotions. But I asked the universe. At the time, I started saying like, I believe in the universe. And so there was always that underlying, even though like I thought I had to control everything, I still knew that like, okay, but let me lean into this. And if I'm meant to take a break, then it will be fine. I asked for a sign that day. I got up and I went and walked around. It was so cold, rainy, gloomy. I was having an awful time. And right as I got back to my hostel, I met this man who offered me flu medicine. And turns out he was a life coach. He had been a life coach for 17 years. And we sat down, and as we got into conversation, when I learned this, suddenly I wasn't tired anymore. Like, part of me at the beginning was trying to find a way to get out of this conversation so I can go sleep. But once we got going on his journey, and he's literally a coach, like it was like I was getting free coaching too. And he saw it in me. He said, "Why aren't you coaching right now? You could be a coach." And because I was explaining to him my predicament of I'm posting every day, eventually I'll build a business off of this. And I even told him, I said, "Wow, I asked for a sign today." And it was him. Also, he's surprisingly from Toronto as well, like where I'm from. So such a small world. We ended up talking for like over an hour, and it was dinner time at that point. And I was like, "Oh, actually, did you eat yet?" So we went for dinner. He treated me to dinner. And he's a grandpa, like he has kids like my age. So it was really special. And to this day, he still is like a mentor to me. He'll randomly send me inspirational things and send me kind messages. And I know that that was God like sent him to me. And we even had talked about that. Like it was just a meant to be thing. And that was one of the first times, I think that was the first time that I genuinely started believing in God more. And from that was in February. And then from then onwards, the rest of my Asia trip, I had experiences like that too, where I just felt low and defeated. And then I would meet someone and they would be exactly what I needed. Like the words they were sharing is what I needed to hear, their energy. And now it's not a surprise to me when this happens. I just believe like God exists, God is within all of us. We're all co-creating our reality every day, and people are sent to us because we're just meant to cross paths at that point to get us to the next thing. So it's hard for me to explain everything, and that was a very long answer, but that's an example of one.
No, that's beautiful. How many days in a row have you been consistently creating content now? And have you still hit that 30-day resistance? And if you do, what do you do this time around?
Oh, so I forgot to say the craziest part of that whole story. So yeah, that was what kind of helped me give myself permission to take a break. So I did. And when I was leaving Vietnam, I made a video. I just turned my camera around and was like, here's the biggest lesson I learned after 1 month in Vietnam. And in my 9 months of making videos every day, I had said that those are my favorite kinds of videos to make because they're so easy. I just talk and I cut the clips, done. But I felt like I needed to make more aesthetic content, like the voiceovers. And, there's so much on social media about like, you got to get it with the hook in the beginning. And this is how you go viral and whatever. That video ended up going viral. And I never in a million years would have thought that that would. And I think I gained, because it tells you the statistics, like 8,000 followers from that one video. So even though for the first 30 days of my trip, I was posting and working for hours, that video took me probably less than 10 minutes to make. And I got 8,000 followers from it. So I remember when it started to go viral, I was just shocked. At that point, I was in Malaysia and my followers are going up, up, up. And it just really proved to me, God literally, it's always like when you're about to give up too, that God's like, okay, it's like a test almost, like, can you trust me and like lean into this? Like I cannot explain how that happened other than the fact that there has to be a higher power at play, because I didn't do anything. Like, I mean, I made the video, but I didn't have to work so hard for that result. That's ultimately what I wanted the whole time, right? And that just gave me, that day onwards, I don't have any negative feeling about taking a break anymore. I trust, like, yeah, if I take a break, it could lead to my next viral video. And I don't demonize rest anymore. So since then, I've actually taken regular breaks. Like my first 3-day detox without the internet was actually at a meditation retreat in Thailand. And that was, I think, around March. So I was still posting content and I was scared to take a break that long. But when I did it and I just physically felt the inner peace and how present I was in that, it helped me to detach. It's all about detachment and expectation, right? Like I'm now at a point where I don't put the pressure on myself for my content, because to be honest with you, yeah, like I know it could all get taken away. Like if I lose access to my account someday, like I just trust that if I did it once, I can do it again. I'll start over. And yeah, like people are so scared, because I was there too, to take a step back, whether it be from your job, your everyday life, and if you're building something, to like slow down. But I've learned this too. You really do have to slow down to speed up. Like when you hyper rest, it leads to so much energy that you can use and alchemize into something that you ultimately want. And so I've learned how to manage my energy better. And I think that's actually the key to life. Like when you can master your own energy, then you can be okay with anything that happens. Like when you need to take a break or when you need to speed up, you can feel it, you understand yourself.
How do you go about sort of dealing with, I guess, like financial pressures? Like if I sort of sold everything and moved to Asia, the first thing on my mind is like, okay, how do I start making money today online? But it seems like you sort of did a bit of traveling. You even doubled down further and invested in coaches. So you even got even like you put yourself in more financial pressure. Yeah. How did you deal with the financial pressures of so just traveling and just like living off your savings?
So here's where I'm very grateful for my life before I started changing everything up. And this is why I think I'm going to be a great coach for people as well, because I'm doing both the practical, like dealing with the practical issues as well as the inner healing that needs to be done to transform your life. I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA, and I'm Chinese. My parents raised me to be very money conscious. And I am also a Virgo. I don't know how much you believe in horoscopes or astrology, but we are known to be very detail oriented, analytical, practical. So it was actually in my nature. That's why I ended up going into accounting. I just naturally am very attentive to numbers, and it's just like I don't have to even think about it. So I also mentioned that when I invest and when I spend my money, I'm very strategic and patient, and I like to make sure that it's going to pay off. Like obviously I'm taking a risk, but calculated risks. And so I'm bridging this into my coaching, any coaching that I do, this program and anything that I make to help people. Yes, you have to be delusional, but like you also need to be realistic to some extent. Like we're still in this physical world, and yes, you need money. So it's like budgeting is super important. And that's, like I said, something I naturally have always done. So before I even left my career behind in the corporate world and started traveling, I came up with a loose budget. I understood my spending patterns. And the 3 months in Asia last year was actually more of an experiment to see actually how much it would cost. And throughout those 3 months too, I was gravitating towards people that were digital nomads, and I would ask them, because that's the best way to find things out, is to just have conversations with people who already are doing what you want to do. And I realized it's not that unrealistic. It's actually very feasible. And that's what was stopping me for so long from thinking I could be a digital nomad. The financial problems, the visa issues, or like even taxes. Like I did tax accounting for a while too. I was like, how can I do this? But once I went to Asia and had these conversations, I realized, oh, it's actually easy. I can just do it. So that's how I'm here now. And I'm really excited to work with people and help them financially too to reach their goals. Like I said, I just had a good foundation because of my past life and as much trauma that was caused from it, like from my upbringing, and then also my career that didn't serve me. Like I did not like accounting. It at least got me to having a very comfortable safety net, and also just the financial literacy and the intelligence that I'm now channeling into greater good and serving others, and also just my own dream life. Like I'm investing it into what I want to do. And I like how you said I'm doubling down on it, which is true. I think a lot of people, I mean, I did take baby steps along the way over the last few years, but this year with this trip, I was like, no, I'm just going for it. I'm building a business online while becoming a digital nomad, while traveling the world. And I just trust, like, you got to make the like high risk, high reward, right? And I think it's all about having the abundance mindset. I used to be deep in a scarcity mindset where I never thought I had enough money. I didn't even know what enough was. And the more that I've practiced gratitude, which I do on my daily photo dumps, I realized, like, and just like I said, I've seen God like in all the people I meet and the experiences that I have. I'm always taken care of. I think people should reflect on that as well, thinking like all these things you fear, at the end of the day, you're still here. Like it always works out. We're just scared to let go. But I do believe like it's going to come, everything I give comes back. Any money I'm spending, it's an investment in myself. And when it flows, and it's flown back to me as well in a lot of ways, like flowed back to me in a lot of ways. So I just have this, that's why I say I just trust God a lot when it comes to this.
Talking to all the digital nomads that are like living in Asia, Bali, Thailand, how cheaply can you survive in Asia? Like, can you survive on 2 grand a month, 1 grand a month? Like, how low can it go where you're able to survive in Asia?
Yeah, 1 to 2 grand. I've definitely met people who are doing that. And that's actually why I am in Thailand for this month. I was initially planning to explore Sri Lanka for the month of March, because a recent goal of mine now is I want to go to 30 countries before I turn 30, and I'm turning 29 this year. But after doing the Philippines for a month, which is also new to me, I realized the way that things are panning out and what I'm feeling drawn to at the moment, which is I'm feeling a lot of energy that's ready to be poured into my business. If I am traveling new territory, it's a completely different energy state and mindset that I need to be in because I want to leave myself open and flexible to learning about places that I never would have heard about before. Like that's how I travel now too. I'm very good with the flow and also meeting people. And so I would be staying in hostels. But to build my coaching where I want to have one-on-one calls and I want to leave myself open to this, my priority, a couple weeks ago or like last month, I realized I'd rather stay somewhere I'm familiar with. And because I was in Thailand last year, and I just know that this environment, like being near a beach, being in a nice controlled environment, my own space, and I love the food here. And I just know the price point. It's affordable. Like I was in Thailand for over a month last year. Thailand is one of the cheaper countries in Asia. And like, I just know that this works for me. So that's how I decided on living in Thailand for this time. And then that's why I'm going to Da Nang for 3 months, April, May, June. That was my vision since last year because Da Nang was the first city in Vietnam that I went to. And I immediately like just felt it. I loved it. I felt like I could move there. I even made a reel saying it's 1 week in Vietnam and you already want to live, like move here or something. Because Da Nang specifically is a digital nomad hub. There's a lot of expats there. I was with my friend who had lived there for a few months the year before, and she actually introduced me to some of her expat friends. I met actually another Canadian, a guy from South Africa, a couple people from the States. And one day I was at a coffee shop just working on my content, and I think a Ukrainian guy came up to me and we had a conversation. He was building his business online and I asked him like, oh, how much is rent here? And I think he said like $400 a month or something. I vividly remember that conversation because I was just like, whoa, it's that cheap. So Vietnam is actually cheaper than Thailand, which is why I'm going there for 3 months. I just feel like I'm going to build a community there as well of like-minded people who are also like digital nomads or expats. And they have a beach in Da Nang. And that's what I'm saying. Like I noticed in traveling so much, I've learned now what environment works best for me to feel the best about myself and to just live in my own world and really be in my element and feel my own energy and aligned. So yeah, it can be very affordable. In my experience, like Vietnam and Thailand, those are where I'm prioritizing.
How much does it cost to survive in Thailand, to have like your own space, to be near the beach as you talked about, to be able to eat lunch, breakfast, dinner? How much will it cost each month?
That varies for sure on what kind of person you are and what your standards are for your quality of living. I think with Thailand, it's getting a little tougher because right now it's peak season. So I am spending a little more. For example, this place, I'm in Koh Lanta at the moment. And I'm going to stay here for about 2 weeks because I wanted to start posting more content and really getting into this coaching mindset. This place is about 80 Canadian dollars a night. And in this next month, like in Thailand, like I'm also going to Koh Samui, Koh Tao, and the prices, I think on average, it's going to be around 150 Canadian dollars a day with accommodation and food. But that's Canadian, so you can convert that. Maybe it's like 120, 130 US. But there are so many digital nomads who spend less than me. That's just the budget that I'm working with, knowing what I need in my space, in my environment,
Mm.
and specifically which places I'm going to. Like I'm also meeting up with friends, so my schedule is going to be around that too. But there are some islands and parts of islands that are cheaper than others, obviously away from the tourist area. And if you decided to stay in one place for a whole month, you could find a short-term accommodation and save money there. So
Mm.
it very much can vary. And there's a range because even Bali, for example, like if you were to stay in Canggu, like the main tourist area, it's going to be a lot more pricey than if you go off a little bit or like Lombok. I think I have a friend that was living there. So there's a range. I hope that that doesn't stop people because like my budget is just, like I said, I've crafted it myself, knowing my financial situation, my goals. And I think that like there's a way to make anything work. People also are digital nomads living in hostels. If you can find a hostel where maybe a cafe nearby, you can just work from there. Because for me, I'm on calls, which is why I want private rooms. But a lot of people, they just do their work on their computer and you don't need the privacy. So living in hostels is very, very realistic. And that's affordable and cheap and fun. So yeah, that's a long answer for this question.
You also talked about sort of going through that weight loss journey and as you sort of gone through that journey, you've just noticed people treat you nicer. Like I remember the other day I was helping a friend. He has a grass jelly drink and we're filming interviews. So we're doing like street interviews and we're just giving people free samples and filming them to get our thoughts. And biasly, we're just selecting good-looking people. And I was like, man, it sucks because all these people that aren't attractive, they're not getting a free can of grass jelly. But then we want to interview the good-looking people, and we know that's going to get more views, and it's just more fun. But I guess that's sort of how life goes. It feels unfair. I can see how biased I am when it comes to picking. Yeah, what's your thoughts, given that you've been through that journey?
Well, first of all, I think that it's a really positive thing that you're aware of your own biases and that you even caught yourself in that moment saying like, oh, why are we doing this? I think that's what a lot of people are lacking, that awareness of their own biases. It's so common in our society. It's prevalent in the workplace, everywhere. And it, like you said, it makes sense why. We know that there's going to be higher views. Like it's just naturally more, it will attract more people if you are better looking. And I think it made me sad for a while because, like I said, being someone that physically went through that myself, but at the same time, it was like, okay, but I also did work hard to get here and I do deserve like all the good that comes out of it. And so a lot of it has been me coming to terms with the fact that this is just how it is and almost like play the game, you know? Like you can't win. There's no winning in terms of like finding equality and making everything fair. There's just no way. And with physical appearance, it's going to be different for everybody as well. Everyone's unique. Some people genuinely like don't want to lose weight and they're so confident and happy in their own skin. And that is radiant. It's not always just about like physically, if you look like society's standards, it's how you feel about how you look. And because energy is what people feel. And if you radiate that confidence, it all starts from within. For me, losing weight was actually very transformative because I all my life didn't like the skin I was in and I tried to, but I knew that I could be better. I wanted to be more fit as well. So once I actually got to the point of like losing more weight than I ever thought I could and feeling the benefits of fitness and working out, that gave me that internal confidence. So I think it's a mix of both. It was like, yes, on the outside, I look more objectively better looking based on society standards, but because I felt better with myself, that's what was also drawing people in. And yeah, it's really interesting to reflect on that with people I meet too. Like, and some people on the internet, you see some people aren't going to be the like society's beauty. They don't live up to society's beauty standards, but they're still just such genuine, authentic people. And a lot of people love them. Maybe on the street, you wouldn't go up to interview them, but they're still living a very fulfilling whole life. And I think at the end of the day, it's just if we're aware of this, I think that's the best that we can do. And always trying to use any situation around us or anyone that we see as a way to self-reflect. So that's what I'm saying, like in your example, it's no point being hard on yourself. Like you're naturally doing those actions for a reason, but it's a good opportunity for you to think about, okay, so what is realistic for me to change then? Or do I want to change my actions? And what is the goal for me? And I think there's a lot of things in life that we just have to accept that that's how it is.
Makes sense, yeah. And I really agree with you, the whole energy thing. I think energy plays such a huge role and part in it. Ali, how'd you go about sort of cracking Instagram? Like, Instagram is so freaking difficult. I remember there was a period where I was posting every single day. I did everything from like finding existing viral videos and copying it, the same cuts, the same frame, the same music, and I would post it and it would barely do views. And then I'd also do the route of just like putting a ton of time in creating stories, like creating stories on different things that happen, doing a voiceover and putting effort into these 60-second stories. And those would flop. How did you go about cracking Instagram?
This is probably the thing that I'm most proud of in the way that I've built my Instagram is that I didn't start it until I reached a point in my own personal life and in my life that I was ready to show up as my authentic self, push past any fear that I have of any content I'm going to make. I trained myself from the very beginning. That's why I posted every day to just do it. And actually, a friend of mine, the quote that we came up with, it was because she was posting on TikTok. It's like, don't think, just post. social media is inundated with people trying to be like other people and trying to copy what works and go viral. My framework and my methodology has always just been be me. And like I said, I think that's why that is the one thing I'm most proud of is like I stayed true to my authentic self the entire time. And that was very difficult because yeah, videos wouldn't really do well, but because I was so sure of like, I just, like I said, trusted deep down. I was like, this has to work. I'm going to keep going. Like I know that I've been through so much and my like energy doesn't lie. I know that one day this will pay off. And so, like I said, that Vietnam video was one of the first ones that gained me a lot of followers. And it was me being exactly who I was. Like I said, those were the kinds of videos that I was hoping I could always make. I did experiment a lot in the beginning. I never copied anyone else or tried to go viral with a certain thing. I always made sure that before I clicked post, I was like, is this something that I genuinely want to share with the world? And do I feel good about it right now? And you'll start seeing actually on my Instagram, I'm planning to use a lot of my old content, share it to my stories and show people. The point of me making my Instagram from the beginning was to document my journey and to be that inspiration for people where I have like proof, like physical proof of how I was before. And obviously it's only as of a year and a half ago. So when I left my corporate job, and there's so much before that, like the weight loss. And I used to be a very different person before that, like my upbringing, which I was telling you about, my breakup, like that is not documented. But you know, you always hear these success stories of how people made it, but you don't see the journey. And they always say, you know, it was dark days, they had to push through, it wasn't easy, they had to block out the noise, listen to their own voice. I do have content that is clearly showing this and how my confidence has shifted it, but the messaging is still the same. I always had that underlying belief, and that's what I'm hoping people can realize with themselves too. It's not that they can't have it, it's that they're not taking the action right now and facing that discomfort and pushing past their fears and limiting beliefs to get there someday. So yeah, I think that's always my advice to people too, is you have to be consistent. Yes, you have to show up. I think that was a big reason I ended up going viral too, as I literally posted every day for 9 months. And I still post almost every day. And it's fun for me. That's another thing. I think social media and putting myself out there, it's not something I have to force myself to do. And that's how I know it was like meant for me. And why from the beginning, I was like, I just have to keep posting. I just have to get better at editing and just do my thing and like find my flow, find my rhythm. But there's some people that I talk to that they find it a chore and it's very difficult for them to do that. I think for them, it's probably a good idea to find a way to then outsource it to someone else, like, because that's taking energy away from them rather than pouring into them. I get energized most of the time when I post. Obviously, when I'm due for a break, then I take the break and I come back to it with a lighter spirit. But yeah, I think my coaching too, and just my advice to people is always like, find what works for you. And social media is a difficult landscape, regardless of who you are. But at the end of the day, I would say always just stay true to yourself.
What's your current formula for, I guess, the authentic route? Is there a formula to it? What would your advice be to listeners who are like, okay, I get it. I want to be authentic. What next?
My formula is trial and error. My formula is follow my intuition, follow my heart, and see what happens. Like, do what I can and leave the rest to God. I think the most important thing to achieve anything externally in life is to really just go backwards. Like, stop focusing on trying to make everything perfect and control your external world and just go in. Like, figure out who you are. Like, what do you like? What comes natural to you? What makes you happy? What sparks something in you? What are you truly passionate about? Once you do that, the rest is easy. It'll just happen. That's my formula. And like when I say trial and error, it's because you have to try to know. Like, how I didn't know that I liked doing the talking videos the most until I started making a lot of those and making a lot of other videos. And then it's also strategy too, right? Like, you find, okay, what works for you and it's working externally too. And reflect on, how does that feel now that you've tried it? So there's some videos that I know do well, but I don't really like to make them. And they're not feeling aligned in the direction that I want to go in with my life in terms of, like, for example, travel content. Last year I was doing those vlogs and I would do a lot of like, oh, here are like the top 2 coffee shops you have to go to, or like, this is a must try thing. And at the time I was having fun with it. I was so excited to share these great hidden gems or finds that I think, you know, I really enjoyed, and anyone traveling, I want them to enjoy that too. So I still sprinkle that in sometimes, when it feels right, but I'm not focusing on it as much anymore because editing those videos is very takes a lot out of me. And with knowing that my goal was coaching and I like sharing these kinds of messages, like genuinely, I think this offers more value to the world. Like, how can people transform their lives and find actual freedom and fulfillment and happiness in their life? It's not about all the external results. So to navigate anything in this world, I think you need to understand both like the field that we're playing in, like social media, like there are rules to it. There's an algorithm. So you can't just, it's not going to be guaranteed, nothing's guaranteed. But same with internally, I think the more that you are genuinely like lit up by what you do and you find that inside you and you just keep going for it, like I really do think eventually it will work.
And another thing I've noticed, Ali, you have like it seems like you've built like a solid community foundation where like all your views, you always have like a base of, I don't know, a few thousand views that are showing up and watching your videos every single day. I haven't checked your comments. I don't know if there's like reoccurring people in the comments section every day. How did you go about building community? What's your thoughts and experience with that?
This is going to be interesting to chat about because I like this year is the year that like I said, I'm ready to start building, like making money online and really actually taking action on a lot of these big projects these ideas that I have, bringing them to fruition. And something that obviously, like I'm saying all these things, like I'm very confident and like I believe in myself and I believed and I just kept doing what was right for me, what felt right. But oh my gosh, yeah, so many times I am still critical of myself. It's another Virgo thing too. And how can you not have doubts and fears? Like to this day, I still sometimes wake up and I'm like, oh man, like, is this even working? Even this morning, just before this, I was supposed to have a call with someone who's interested in my program and she didn't show up. But we messaged and we're rescheduling it. But yeah, I was like, wow, like that can just happen. And I noticed how it was making me feel, but I'm like, no, I'm not gonna let that bring me down. I still have a big mission to like accomplish and things that I want to fulfill. And that's what's the most important part is building that resilience. And that's why when you're like at a point with yourself that you believe in you and you believe in God, you're just unstoppable because you can keep going. You can let these setbacks and like those lower energy or like lower emotional days, you just don't let that stop you. You just let it be, take a break, and then keep going. So one thing that I'm actually critical of myself on with my page is that, yeah, I've grown it to over 20K followers, but compared to some other creators, I didn't feel like I had a strong community. But instead of seeing it as like, oh my God, my content, like people are watching and no one's liking or commenting, which I often tell myself, I'm shifting that narrative and consciously like making sure that I don't take it in a negative way and see the opportunity in it instead, where, like I said, I'm open now to taking all the time I need to experiment on what works. And that's why I'm posting more of my stories, more polls, more engagement. And when it comes to strategy, I do follow a lot of these pages where people share their tips on how to make more converting content and building community and building engagement. And now that I'm focusing on that, like, of course, I don't have a strong, solid community now from the beginning. I was just documenting my life. I literally was like, I don't care. I would say videos like, yeah, I don't care who watches this. I don't care who you are. Like, anything is a bonus. Any follower I gain, any view I get, it's just a bonus. This is for me. And that's why how along the journey, like I said, it's more spiritual. And now I feel like I'm serving God. I'm like, this is my purpose on this planet. I think I'm meant to help others. And I finally am at a point where I've poured enough into myself that I want to give to others. So now I'm ready to shift my content to be more like for others, like for you. And I think that it will show that my community will start building itself. And it already is, like with my story engagement and people reaching out more. And so that's how I'm going about building a community now, is making it more about others and having more to offer people. And I'm really excited to be at this stage of my life and my business now. Like I feel so solid with who I am and my support system and my community. My cup is full. I have a lot to give now.
That's so cool, Ali. We usually wrap up these podcasts with two questions. Actually, before that, any questions for me before we go into the two last questions?
Yeah, so you were talking about what you're selling, and I mean, you went on the street to these interviews. So tell me more about your business, and you have this podcast, but what else are you doing with your life?
So my main channel, Andy Meyer, we sort of Over the last 7 years, I've been creating content, teaching people how to start their own e-commerce business, how to build a Shopify store, how to source products, how to market products. So that's sort of been what my main focus has been over the last 7 years. It did really well during COVID. It sort of slowed down the last 2, 3 years. I'm going back and going really hard on YouTube. I've been putting in a lot of effort trying to figure out YouTube again. It's starting to get traction again. I posted my a video 2 days ago and it's like 1 out of 10. It's doing pretty well. So hopefully it keeps going. So I'm starting to feel traction. I do feel like I probably need to make a small pivot and go from like how to make money with e-commerce to probably how to make money using AI, leveraging AI. So I'm sort of been really looking into the AI space. And in doing so, I'm going to learn about AI myself. So it's going to be killing two birds with one stone. So I guess that's a brief summary on what I've been focused on over the last 7, 8 years.
Exciting. I know you reached out. I didn't really go deep into what you've done already, but I'll follow along and I'm excited to see what you have to offer. Maybe if this AI stuff like appeals to me or it's relevant, I could benefit from it too.
No, please, yeah.
Yeah, because this AI stuff that you're talking about, I actually know AI is the future and I want to use that. Obviously, I'm just starting out now too, but I totally see myself like leveraging AI more in the future. So like I'm excited to see what you do because maybe I could work with you someday.
Most definitely, yeah. I think like AI just kept coming up again and again. I had like older mentors hit me up and was like, hey, like, what's up with this AI thing that's happening? Can you teach me everything you know? And I found myself really uneducated. And then that's sort of why I've been like just dumb. Also, just seeing how like on YouTube, you just have a AI in the title and all of a sudden your video just does better. So there's like this whole supply demand issue. Reminds me of drop shipping back in 2018 where like anyone could grow a following, a personal brand talking about drop shipping because there just wasn't enough teachers in the space. And then all those things connected, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start talking about AI.
Love that. Yeah, they're pushing it a lot too, I assume. So, also, what really drew me to when I saw like you emailed me and then I looked at your podcast, you interviewed Megan Nunez.
Hmm. You like
She,
really remind me of her a bit. Like she went through her whole weight loss journey as well, yeah, and documenting it, and then had the ups and the downs, and she had a breakup. Like I definitely thought of that as you were sharing your story.
I followed her really early on in my journey and before she blew up. So she actually followed me back. But and she had DM'd me obviously about her program. But at the time I told her too, I'm like, I'm actually like after being in fitness for a while and like really forcing myself, I'm like, I'm trying not to work out actually. Like I'm trying to like find joy in my life and learn how to accept my body when it's not super fit. And like my priority is travel and building a business, which means like that's taking so much of my energy. It's hard for me to just consistently go to the gym or like find a gym. So it didn't pan out into anything, but I like it's just so cool to have seen her journey too. And when I was seeing her blow up, but like she doesn't, we don't talk at all. But something that I like, I love that you were able to get her as a guest because I love her story and what she's doing right now, also with YouTube. It's amazing. I don't know how much you're watching, but she's like changing it up. She's like, I am not chasing the virality anymore. That persona that she put on, she realized it wasn't working for her anymore. Like she was ended up chasing followers. Like it worked, but now she's leaning into her authentic self, and she's like, I think I'm meant to serve more people in a different way. And like, I think me and her are very similar in that regard.
Let me go to her YouTube channel and check it out because I know like her, does she still do the hey bitch? Like,
No, no, and she made a video on YouTube. Watch it, explaining why she doesn't do that anymore. And
whoa.
it's very similar to the message that I'm sharing because that's what I've learned in life as well. When we try to put on this image that worked, and when we fall victim to social media, she made a I forgot what it was called, but she like dropped the video, and I actually watched it on the airplane. I was like, oh my god.
Because you know what's interesting? That was her at the time. Like her, the whole that was her personality. So I guess she's just grown and changed, but that I guess maybe she got sick of doing her old self because when she was on the podcast, she was talking about how that was her and that's what grew her. People saw that she was authentic. She was like swearing and that was her. But I guess
That
she just
is, yeah, yeah. Like that's what I mean. It's still her, and I'm so careful. Like I think I've been aware of like when I was in recruiting, for example, like it was still me, but yeah, I was in a lot of ways going against like who I really, really wanted to be because like I had to do what worked. And she talks about this in the video. She was like, that was still her, but like it got to the point where she doesn't want to be known for that. Like the community she was building, like the people that was drawing in, she was like, wait, I don't want to just be known as that girl who like talks to a dildo. Like, and it's just really interesting to hear people's stories like that, because that's all part of the journey when you get led in one direction and realize like, oh wow, maybe I was doing that for ulterior motives, like to gain followers, but like what do I even want the followers for? And she had to get to that point to then realize, she's like, oh, this is like, there's no point in just building a mass following if they're not the people that I want. And that's how I'm feeling with my business. Like I don't need more followers at this point. I honestly just need to convert a few people. That's all I want. High ticket clients, high caliber clients. I don't even want to talk to you if you're not like invested in what this is. I don't even want you to pay me if you don't genuinely believe that working with me is going to transform your life and that I have the ability to do that, like to help you. And so it's really powerful stuff. Like she is a role model to me too and an inspiration. And I'm glad that you said that like we are related, like we're kind of similar, because I sensed that when I followed her too.
That's cool. Yeah, I think I'm curious to see what your trajectory would look like over like the next 5, 6, 7 years. Because I remember feeling the same way. Like after 3, 4 years into entrepreneurship, things were doing well. I was making a ton of money. I was getting a bunch of reach. Like I had a formula. Like Megan had a formula to sort of get virality. And eventually I was like, you know what? Like I've been filming videos on drop shipping e-com every single day for the last 900 days. Like I'm sick of this. Like I want to talk about like personal growth, share my journey, talk about mental health. I want to vlog. I want to start a podcast. So I started doing things that made me happy.
Yeah.
The revenue just slowly died. It just went downhill. It went downhill. And obviously, as you said earlier, like, if I look back, I would have appreciated if I kept the foot on the accelerator and kept doing what was working, and I would have made way more money. But obviously, everything happens for a reason. I think I needed to go through that, so I don't regret it.
That's so interesting though. Like you you wish, like now in hindsight, you wish you just kept going.
I don't regret it. I know that that had to happen for where I'm going to be at when I'm, say, 30, 35. So I don't regret it. But I do know logically that if I kept my foot on the pedal, I'd have a much bigger following. I'd be way more financially well. Logic.
This is the kind of client that I want to work with too, which is like someone that believes that success is numbers, more money, more followers, more like, but clearly you stopped for a reason after 900 days of doing that. It wasn't serving you anymore. So you got to the point where like you logically doesn't make sense, because you're like, oh my God, yeah, like now I'm not making money. Like I need money. But if you really needed money, you would have kept going like naturally. But you wanted at that point a break to experiment with other interests of yours that did not include making a lot of money. And yeah, as a result, you didn't. But then you started attaching to that and you're like, wait, I'm no longer as successful because I'm not making money, because I'm not getting followers anymore. But what's the point of life then, right? Like, what do we need money for? What do we make money for? Isn't it not to just be in our fullest expression and to enjoy what we do and to be able to evolve and grow? Like, that's what Megan talks about in her video too. And it's the same for me. Like, I don't care, honestly. It's possible that my coaching flops and no one buys from me, but that's okay, because I'm feeling super passionate about this endeavor and I want to see it through. But I also know, like, I built my page off of this. Like, it's always going to change as I change. And I think that's the problem of niching too early too, and like only sticking to a niche. Eventually, like, we're such multifaceted, multidimensional people. How can we just decide to do one thing and one thing only and think that our whole life revolves around this one thing? It's the reason, it's how we're going to make all our money. It's how we're going to become, like, it's the image. It's just one identity. I really urge you to read The Untethered Soul. Like, I think you identify a lot with like that version of success because it was the first time that you really like achieved a lot and you put all your hard work into it. But I don't think you, like, maybe look in on that too. Like, in a lot of ways it took away from who you really, like, your fullest self and like all different parts of you. I think that's why my current niche is like authenticity and transformation. I think authenticity will always be one of my niches, because I think to be your authentic self means allowing yourself to just play, like have fun with, yeah, like different types of like vlogs. You want to do that? Okay, do it. Because the right people for you will want to see all parts of you. Even like you said in this video, like, that's my personality. Like, that's your personality. And I think, yeah, the money will maybe dip for a bit, but the money will come. And it's just the world we live in. Like, we think that it has to be logic only. But I think when you actually learn how to marry like spirituality with logic and like flow with it's masculine and feminine energy too. I've been learning a lot about that. Like masculine energy works to achieve a lot of these external things that you think you need, but like to actually find joy in it as well and ease in your life and peace, you got to lean into both and like find a way through your own experimentation. Like, how can you do both? So, yeah, like you building your YouTube now, the second time around is a good opportunity for you to like this time, instead of just building off of one and potentially getting to like almost burnout, right? Like you kind of got tired of doing that certain way. Make sure that along the way, you're also incorporating other things. Like your whole brand is built off of like you do various things. Like that's what Megan is doing, because yeah, she ended up accidentally niching down too much into that, like, hey, bitch, like identity. And now she's like, okay, that's not entirely me. I'm so much more than that. And I want to show you all of that. And so she's made that shift. And it's gonna show, like, yeah, maybe she'll lose those followers that are only following her for the funny content, but she's gonna gain so many more people that actually see her for who she really is. And that's the philosophy that I truly, truly believe in, because it just worked in my life too with like the people that I meet. And I just trust like my followers are going to also mirror that as well. And like, and my money in the future. So when you say trajectory in like 6 or 7 years, I actually think like, yeah, give me that time frame. And I think a lot, it's almost like an exponential thing. Like it's a slower build because you're giving yourself room to play and like experiment with more things. Because yeah, if I honestly, I really think if I wanted to, I could have made money so quick, because I could have just said like, yeah, like I lost weight, this is how I do it. I did it. And instantly, like I could sell an ebook and be like, this is how I quit my 9 to 5 to travel the world. If I was chasing just money and followers, like I easily could have, I believe. Like, but would I have fun? Like what would be the point? Like then what? Yeah. So it's really interesting to hear you talk about that, because I think in my coaching too, I'm going to help people like find their purpose that you can always ground yourself in. You need a really strong why, more than money, more than fame, more than like what other people will think of you, and just truly like what you think of yourself.
Yeah, I think you have great insights. Like I think being in doing this for like 7, 8 years, I've seen peers also go through a 7, 8 year journey, and it's a very biblical thing, sort of 7 year cycles. I think entrepreneurship happens in 7 year cycles where you quit your job and things are crushing it. You're optimistic. You have this, you're like anything is possible, and that's sort of what the first half of the 7 years looks like. And I've followed a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of close friends, and it happened to me personally. The second 3.5 years is sort of when things start changing. And usually the catalyst is, things have gone well, you've made a ton of money. Now you're focusing on happiness, you're focused on traveling, you're focused on trying things that you're more passionate. You also, now you've grown, you've changed. So you start going out and doing different things, you start networking, meeting friends, getting into relationships, and then roughly around year 6, you start running out of money. Year 7, you're sort of now nearly bankrupt and you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And around year 7, which was me sort of last year, I was surrounded by a bunch of people who are sort of getting into their first year of entrepreneurship. And it's crazy. I'm surrounded by all these people that are making more money than me, despite I'm sort of like being at this 7 years in. And it's sort of confusing because they're all confident, they're all sort of cocky, they're all like, hey, I know the formula, I know what to do. This is what you should do, Andy. And I was like, huh, well, like I was like, I so remember me being exactly like that 1 year in, that sort of confident, that optimistic, that, I was manifesting. I was literally everything I said, I literally got. Everything I put into my affirmation booklet, I got. So I sort of understand where they're coming from. But then, sort of that seventh year, whether you're an artist, whether you're an athlete, it's like statistically, the seventh year people either give up and they go back to like getting a job, they quit their acting career, they quit their NBA career, they quit their singing career, or you push through and you sort of get another 7 year journey. And that's sort of my current hypothesis. I'll see how it plays out. I've just seen me personally go through that, seeing other people go through it. Now I'm seeing a lot of people that are 1 or 2 years into entrepreneurship, and I'm curious to see what they'll be like by the
Yeah.
6th year. And if I'm correct, then what would happen. If I'm wrong, then I guess my hypothesis is wrong.
Well, you're right about the 7 year cycle, even in astrology and stuff. That's a common thing. Like 20, I think when you turn 28 or something is like there's like a Saturn return as well. Like there's like life does happen in 7 year cycle, but we have like a big change in 7 years, like your energy shifts
Mm.
and things transform. So it is, I think there is a lot of like spiritual evidence about this as well, like that theory. But interesting that you say your findings because yeah, I can tell you're a very logical person. Most men are more logical than women. And I think that's what is so cool about the world too, is that like no two people's paths are the same. I think that's why when we start, and why I actually do believe I will be very successful in whatever I want to do, like whatever success means to me always, is that I've done this part of the journey earlier. Like I built from the inside out. I think a lot of people build from the outside in because they're maybe in a state where they need the money, right? And that was me in the corporate world. I was chasing all these things, but I know like I have the luxury now. I had the luxury to take a break, to stop pushing myself for work, to really sit down with myself and be like, what is the point of anything I do in this life? Like, what is the point of making money? What is the point of working? Who am I? I think when you have that solidified, that clarity, and get to the root of like, who are you really, that like does not waver depending on what you're doing with your life and who you're surrounded by, that will never change. And so that I don't think runs out in 7 year cycles. I think, yes, like what you're doing on a day to day may change, but I think when in your core, like the essence of you, when that's still there, like, and that doesn't waver, you can push through anything, any challenges. And yeah, like it's just so easy to compare to other people. Like it was me in corporate, but I'm sure as an entrepreneur, yeah, like even online, like comparing to other creators, like some people blow up super quickly, some people make a lot of money like this. And, you know, like you said, your 7 year path like got you there. I think the Untethered Soul will be really helpful for you. And especially with what you're about to go through now, because it can help you build this time around with a different mindset, with less pressure on yourself, with less like focus on the external results and more focus on like how can I truly be myself and happy with who, like me, like Andy, like who am I really? Because like I even heard you say in the beginning, you remember you were like your heart was open, you had affirmations, you believed. You see these people with like wide eyes and they're like that too, and you're almost, I hear it in, it's almost like you're 7 years, yeah, it's a long time, you're almost like defeated by it. But the book, there's a chapter I love, it talks about like the only way to not close is to always stay open, like open your heart again, like find that joy in you again that you had 7 years ago, and almost treat it like, yeah, your rebirth, like this is your second go at it, and this time you have all that experience that worked, plus you're making sure this time around you do it to make yourself happy. And I think you're actually going to achieve the success way faster than 7 years, because authenticity is literally a magnet. Like it just draws everything in. And like without the scarcity mindset and just like channeling abundance and being present, like you're gonna love the journey this time. It's not gonna be like 3 years in and you're like, oh, like I'm tired of making these videos. Like you can do it in a more intentional, like slow build.
How long has it been since you quit your last job you've had and sort of gone full time into
May
just
20, May 2023 was, I didn't even quit. It was 6 months into the job, but I didn't realize it, but I was putting so much pressure on myself that like when things didn't go right, like when a candidate flopped on me last minute, when a sale didn't go through, and like I could have one amazing week and then one shit week, and it like I was down and out for 3 days, and like I just couldn't, like I noticed it taught me so much about myself and my energy and my motivators. And that's what I mean. I at that point was like, I don't fucking care about the money. I don't like this job. like the job I was selling, for example. But I noticed I was making excuses. Like I loved my team. The people were so supportive. I'm like, I would be stupid to like quit. Why would I quit? And that's why I'm saying my life transformed 2024 when I went to Asia and I just saw this whole way of living. And the only way that I got to like full clarity that like that Toronto life that I had and that corporate life was not for me was when I was physically present in Asia, feeling like sitting on a beach. And I just had no worries. I was like, I don't even care if I run out of money. I can volunteer at a hostel and be happy. Like I don't even know how to describe the feelings of like when you start living in a way that's so different than what you thought success was, but yet you feel internally so successful because you realize like you have every day you just wake up and you're like excited by life again. Like that should be what we do.
Ali,
And
like Ali in 6, 7 years time, let's say she's rewatching your sort of talk over the last 10 minutes. What do you think she's going to be saying? Like, what do you think her thoughts are listening back to Ali 6, 7 years younger?
I think she's going to be really proud. I think she's going to say, good job on believing in yourself without any evidence, like so early in your journey, but just staying authentic and consistent and like having the audacity to go for it because it's gonna work. I think she's gonna look back and be like, she's gonna know like this was the way, this was the only way. And yeah, just I know she'll be proud. I know because I really do think like I say it a lot, but I just have this. I'm very intuitive, and like the more I've been on this journey, I just feel deep down that I'm gonna be rich and famous one day. And it's not for selfish reasons now. It's like I said it in my video post yesterday. Like I follow a lot of creators that talk about this too, that money and fame are not inherently bad. They are just resources that amplify who you are. So I used to think that money and fame would change me, would ruin me. So I was blocking myself from doing this because I didn't want to be a bad person and I thought it could make you bad. So what I did instead was like work really hard on like finding my true self and like learning to love myself and like be the light and like be a good person. Finally, like my younger self, oh my God, I was like, I hated myself. I thought I was an awful person. I was ugly inside and out. I treated people that I loved like shit. And I've hurt a lot of people in the past. And so I really embarked on this healing journey. And like, that's why I believe in God too. It's like God is like working through me. And I think this is the only way that the world can heal is if everybody starts to look inward and like stop chasing all these things outside and like lead with love, because judging others, like that's war, like politics, like all this stuff, all this awful stuff that happens in the world is because people are living in fear and like not loving. And yeah, I think I just find I know this is the truth. I just know it and I feel it. And like I know I'm a good person. I've worked so hard, but God also has blessed me in so many ways. Like this is what I'm meant to do.
I love it.
But also like if you can send me the recording,
Yeah.
like also just fully, because I
Hmm.
love that you asked me that because I think I actually will look back on this in 6, 7 years.
And I'd
Yeah.
love to like see you in 6, 7 years react to it and see sort of you then. Yeah, I'd be curious
Yeah.
to see too.
What do you think your future self, 6 or 7 years from now, will say?
Well, I saw this clip of me from me maybe in 2019. So I guess that's 7 years ago. And yeah, it was very similar things. I was like really proud of myself. I was like, good on you. I could see how I didn't like I believed in myself. I'm so happy for that young me. Like I'm like, go him, go little Andy. Dude, like you crushed it, little Andy. Like I'm so happy that it was this clip on me, like I was like walking down Uluru, this giant rock in the middle of Australia. I was like, dude, like I'm so happy and proud of you, and it's because of you that I'm where I am today. So I guess that's a positive side of things. But on the other side of things, I'm like, wow, like like little Andy has no idea what the next 7 years looks like. He has no idea about the ups and downs. I could see how, like, yeah, he has no ideas on how tough this journey has been. But I'm proud, like all those things doesn't negate all the positive thing. Like I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. I'm so like it's because of him I'm where I am, and I'm so happy to be where I am now. Yeah, I guess that's what it like. It sort of reminds me. I remember I had a mentor. He's like maybe mid 50s. I remember asking Tony. I was like, "Hey, like Tony, like, do you ever feel like down and out? Like, do you ever feel lonely or sad?" He was, oh, not really. I was like, oh, like I was a bit stumped by the response. I was like, oh, like are there days where you just wake up and you just don't feel like doing work? And he was like, yeah, and those days I probably just take the day off, or I find happiness at the bottom of a bottle, of a
Yeah.
liquor bottle. And I easily could have been like, that's a stupid response. That means you're not happy. That means you're like finding ways to
No.
compensate or band-aid or numb the pain. But given that he's successful, he's definitely someone that I wouldn't mind trading lives with. He's been at this for the last 30 years. I didn't jump to that conclusion. You know, I definitely know there's more to what he meant. It's probably like an offhanded joke, but there's definitely meaning behind it, whether it's like, hey, whatever happens, it's temporary. In a day's time, things are going to go back to normal. I don't know what the meaning of what he said means, but I wouldn't be surprised that when I'm his age, I would totally understand what he meant by that. And I maybe say the same thing if a little version of me asks the same question. So I think that's tying it back, looking at little Andy, there's no way he could understand what I just said about, dude, the next 7 years, it's going to be not as easy as you think. There's going to be lots of ups and downs. but it's going to make you grow. It's going to give you battle scars that you're going to be really appreciative for the battle scars. There's no way you can dodge the battle scars, no matter how aligned you are. Little Andy is going to think I'm just being this sort of Debbie Downer, saying that to him. But he's going to go through the journey and is going to understand exactly why I said those things to him.
Yeah, that's really sweet. It's so cool that we like, yeah, look back and that's why the journey in life is exciting. It's just growth. Like we evolve in ways that we don't expect.
Yeah, so the two questions you asked is one, any recent discoveries that you've been implementing into your life, Ali?
Recent discoveries.
Or last discovery?
That's very vague. Give me some examples.
Let's see. Oh, so the most recent discovery, literally yesterday, I implemented this is I usually wake up. Well, the discovery before that was maybe 2, 3 months ago. I did this thing where I wake up and instead of having a whole morning routine, I get out of bed, I go straight to turning on the laptop and I start planning my day and just sort of getting work done instantly. And that has been amazing. And then yesterday, I've implemented an extra change where I was like, what if I just go straight to like waking up, going to the laptop and start scripting 500 words a day? That's what I try to do every day. I try to do 500 words, scripting my next YouTube video. And usually previously I would have a morning routine, like I would go through my checklist, I'll see different tasks for the day, I'll go through my calendar, I'll set alarms. So that would usually be what I would do before scripting. But I was like, you know what, today let me go straight to scripting. So that's something I've implemented today.
Wow, that's exciting. I hope that keeps going smoothly for you.
Yeah, we'll see. Because I know I really enjoy the whole, because I used to have a whole morning routine where I'd, wash my face, I'll get change, I'll turn on the kettle, I'll, make some tea, I would open all the blinds. So I do all these things, and all of a sudden it's like an hour's gone by before I got to the laptop. So I was like, okay, let me see what happens if I go straight to the laptop. And then now it's like, what would happen if I go straight to my laptop and go straight to scripting 500 words?
Mm. Yeah, the best part about what you're doing is you're trial and erroring something brand new, and you're only going to benefit from it because you're going to see how that ends up working for you. You might find that it's too rigid or it's too much and you need that downtime in the morning, which will actually make you happier to do your slower routine in the morning. Or you'll get to the point where like, oh, this works for me and I get so much more done and I'm energized by it and I want to keep doing it. So that's exciting. I think what came to mind in you sharing that is like, I used to try to do that to myself too. I would force myself to be productive and tackle the day. But I'm just not a morning person. And I've been learning a lot just through like reading content and what I consume. But right now, the two books so I just reread The Untethered Soul, which I read for the first time in 2022. And it's very eye opening. It's like a spiritual awakening book by Michael Singer. I have it now on Audible, so I listened to the audiobook, and I'm also talking with someone who we both read it and we were discussing it, and then they recommended to me The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, so I'm listening to that one at the moment, and both are very similar messages, very similar vibes, and it's about being present and your energy and mastering like just how to be instead of doing all these things. How can you just be to exist and detach from your identities of who you think you need to be or want to be and just accept like we're just souls in a body. And so this is the most recent discovery, I'd say. I mean, I've already been introduced to this idea when I first read the book in 2022, and that's been a strong guiding force actually behind like me going on this journey, being my authentic self. And traveling has helped me to be so present too, because when I'm in a place, I actually like soak it all in, and practicing gratitude has helped a lot with that. And just, being in your body. A friend of mine, I always say this, but he always would tell me, like, get out of your head and into your body. And that's what being present is. We have so much going in our minds all day. I used to suffer with so much anxiety. I'm a chronic overthinker. I still have so many thoughts in my head, but that's why the meditation retreat last year was also a very powerful experience. And so these are concepts and ways of living that I'm really, really gravitating towards at the moment. And I'm testing that out in my life. And I've been testing it out for a while. So instead of forcing myself to do things, I sit back and I feel and I allow myself to just do what feels natural. And It's amazing. I don't know. Like yesterday, I woke up and I had a plan of like, yeah, I'll make certain content, but I noticed it didn't like something. I made a different type of video. I just talked and it flowed. And then as I was walking back here, I just stopped and got a massage because I noticed I was so in my head and I just wanted to stop checking my phone. So for that 1 hour, it was like I couldn't check my phone and it was what I needed. And going to bed though, I was kind of being a little hard on myself. I noticed the thoughts. I observed them. They were like, oh, but if you want to get clients and if you want to build this business, you need to post blah, blah, blah. So you should do this. But it didn't flow yesterday for a reason. Like I wasn't meant to do that. And whenever those thoughts come like that, I just know, sleep on it. Like that's not the state to be in, to be making decisions. And I just stopped forcing everything in my life. And a motto that I'm really following to is I don't chase, I attract. So when it comes to like friends coming in my life, like men, like clients, anything, I really just think the more in tune with myself I am, the more aligned and authentic I am, like abundance will come to me. Everything will come to me. And that's also a result of being so in tune with yourself and not forcing anything to be a certain way. That's, I think, the truth of the world. I think everybody would be happier and more at peace if they followed that.
Interesting. With that philosophy, like for example, I have a dinner tonight at 7:30 with probably like a group of like 8 people. So I guess that's like 3.5 hours from now. And I could already tell it's been a long day. I'm gonna be a potato. I'm gonna be exhausted. And I guess I could either one, just sort of lean into the exhaustion and just sort of show up how I show up and show up how I feel, or I could maybe exert some extra energy and light up and sort of be more sort of, I guess, interactive and more animated just because people are there and sort of use momentum to push me as I'm like doing this. I could feel the momentum pushing and maybe they'll get me through the dinner. But then I guess I wouldn't be authentically myself if I did that. What would you do in that option, in that situation?
So I was just watching you talk about that, and I noticed like you're getting so ahead of yourself. You're literally thinking about the future that's it's not even real right now. How
Mm,
can you know what you're gonna do when you're sitting at that table hours from now? Why don't you just get there and then see how you feel? Maybe you'll like 'cause the energy of it, you don't even know what these people are gonna bring, how they're feeling. And what if it like a conversation topic sparks up that like you're so passionate about that you suddenly are energized, or what if they're talking about things that you don't really care about? And then yeah, you're like, okay, I'm gonna lean into this, like I'm gonna be more quiet, just sit back. Like that's what I mean. I was same as you. I would try to rationalize everything and have a plan for like how, yeah, literally a plan of how I'm going to act in a few hours. And that's why these books, I do recommend listening to them as well or reading them. Yeah, like the amount of time we spend in our minds away from what's actually real and just making up all these scenarios, it's just causing us stress and anxiety. We're not actually enjoying the moment.
mm. What happens if the moment is your tide? What if you, for example, you jump on a call and at that very moment you're like, man, I feel pretty down. But then this is sort of like a sales call. Do you go ahead and try to force yourself to turn into the, sales alley, or do you sort of lean into the fact that you're feeling down and you sort of adjust your energy a bit and sort of just sell in that way?
This is what I love about the fact that what I'm selling now is so true to me. And it's just like, no matter how I'm feeling, how exhausted I am, it's going to light me up. Like, this is, I actually do believe a lot of it is God working through me to spread wisdom and light to the world and love. And even when I don't have much in me, I know that it's God is giving me what I need. And part of being authentic too, though, is yeah, like some days you're not gonna like feel the same. Like if you didn't have a good night's sleep. And I think authenticity always wins. You don't have to, like if it's a sales call, you don't have to say like, oh, I'm feeling like shit and this is what happened today. Just you can express that. I think what I would do is like I would just let it naturally happen. And again, I know once I get talking about what I'm like this, like I don't know if you know some of my answers, I can just talk for days. This is why I am so excited that I've found my path. I think for anybody, like those are indicators for you. Like if you're noticing that you don't actually want to sell what you're selling, that's the bigger issue. It's not that you are feeling tired that day. It's the fact that you're not passionate about what you do. And I've been there, like in recruiting. Yeah, some days I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be on this call. I don't like this job I'm selling. I don't even want to talk to this person. And it was very hard. But when you realize that you can control because you can choose what you want to do with your time and your life, And that's why experimenting with your life is so important, to find those things that actually come natural to you. And I've experimented in my life, even when it came to friendships. Like when you're talking about this dinner with 8 people, I finally understand that going to a dinner with 8 people actually takes a lot of energy out of me. I used to be such a social butterfly, doing things with big groups all the time. And now I just love being alone. And if someone is not going to help me feel energized, like if they're draining me, I'll just say no. And again, this comes with, it's the same kind of alignment exercise with work, like I said, with sales calls. I think when you follow what's actually meant for you, like when you follow your energy, everything will work itself out.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Last question. Any personal goals for the next 6 months, aside from work, aside from the coaching, any personal goals?
Yes. So that's another reason why I'm excited to just live in Vietnam for 3 months. Because with moving around and packing up every few days, it's hard to get into a consistent workout routine and
Hmm.
to prioritize movement. Yes, I walk a lot, but my weight loss journey, that was years ago, and I got so into the gym. And since then, I've had ups and downs with my relationship with my body. This last year, I've purposely stopped forcing myself to do anything, like I said. And that included going to the gym if I didn't feel like it, or running. And I'm finally, after resting for that long, at a place where I'm just so excited to like challenge myself in this way again and like build up my fitness. It's not going to be forcing. I'm not forcing myself against my will to get up and go for a run or go to the gym. Now that I've rested a lot, I see it as I'm so excited to get myself to that next level again. Prove to myself that I can do hard things, to see what version of me I can be, because I know how much working out fuels me too. And those 3 months in Vietnam, and I'm already going to start it like this month in Thailand, but I'm just locking in for 3 months on my fitness and my business. And I'm so excited to see what comes of it. Like this morning, I actually went for a run along the beach. It was not easy. I walked for half of it, but I just got up and got it done, and I felt so good. And yeah, waking up in the morning was hard. And so I'm following the flow and easing into it, versus before I would be so rigid, and it's like, no, you have to do it this way. And if you miss a day, you're not perfect, and like it's game over. But I've learned like that all or nothing mindset did not serve me. And that's another thing I wanted to actually add when you were talking about like how you're setting your routine of like doing this right when you wake up. I think we have to make sure we leave room for flexibility in when we have our goals, because if you want to achieve the goal, you have to make it in a way that it's sustainable. If you're just trying to force yourself to do it all the time, that's kind of impossible. Like we're only human. Some days we will have less energy. I actually wanted to run yesterday morning, but because I stayed up late, I had a call at midnight. I woke up, and at like 9 or 10, I slow to get up. And at that point, it would be way too hot outside to run. I just said, okay, no, I'm going to do it tomorrow instead. And so today I actually got up at 8 and went, because I had extra rest and I prepared for it. And instead of being hard on myself yesterday, thinking like, wow, I told myself I would run and now I didn't do it, I'm a failure, like the way I used to talk to myself, like those mindset shifts are super important to achieve any goal in life.
Makes sense. I love it, Ali. Ali, where can people get more of you?
My Instagram is at AlisRealities. That's where I'm building my coaching business. You can DM me or apply in my link in bio. And I'm always sharing content almost daily and spreading so much love and light to the world. And I'm so excited to connect with more of you.
Thank you so much for your time today, Ali. I love your journey. I'm excited to sort of watch it from afar and sort of see the trajectory that you sort of go on and all the different versions of you that sort of come over the next few years. But thank you so much for your time. Guys, if you made it this far, please let me know your thoughts. Hope you guys got value from this episode, and I'll see you guys next week on another episode. Peace.